You're listening to the Coop Homeschool Podcast.
This is your podcast for community, humility, and joyful fun in homeschooling.
I'm Mandy.
And I'm Jessica.
And this is The Coop. So today we are talking about some of our favorite books at our house.
Yep.
Picture books. So we have 5 each that we're going to share with you that could work for all ages and can be really enjoyable for the whole family as a read aloud or as independent reading.
Yes.
And even as artwork and etc.
Yeah.
And so let's first get to our scoop on the Coop.
Yeah.
So I'll start with my scoop.
Okay.
My kids I did a read aloud the other night of Freckle Juice by Judy Blume.
Cute.
And I had wanted to do it that day and they were never really into it. So at bedtime I said, do you guys want to go to bed? Or do you want to cuddle with me on my bed and read Freckle Juice? So they were like, yes! They were so excited to do a read aloud. So I was like, okay, we're just going to do chapter 1. And of course, then we read the whole book.
Yeah.
Because they can stay up late. So that's like one of my hacks, basically. Like, if they think they get to stay up late, they'll do whatever I give them to do.
Yeah.
So then I said, okay, they had a recipe for Freckle Juice, which was disgusting. So I said, how about you guys think of something that you would want to change about yourself?
Right.
And come up with some magic potion and recipe tomorrow. And so my 10-year-old came up with it that night. He was all ready to go. And I said, I'll be showing you measuring spoons and cups and all that. And he did 3 seconds of pouring this. 2 seconds of pouring this. Yeah. And then my 5-year-old was like 2 taps.
Right. He's a future bartender already.
Yeah. And
3-second pour.
So, and then my 5-year-old, she did like taps of sprinkles, but then the 8-year-old, she definitely was doing the measuring spoons.
Precise.
Yeah. So that was really fun. And then they had so much fun that next day putting it together. And so it was just really fun. And they probably spent an hour, my 10-year-old was mashing his oranges and his strawberries mixed with bubbly and frozen strawberries as well. So he was mashing it all together. And then when I said, well, if you want to add Pop Rocks, feel free. And they were like, oh, of course. So it was really cute to see what they had come up with to change. And of course, the 5-year-old, who is more compassionate than the rest of my family, she was like, I would help you with your sweaty problem. Because since my hands and feet sweat all the time.
So she was helping. Yeah.
So she said, I would want to help you with that.
Right.
And then I asked him to do a reversal potion as well.
Cute.
So my 8-year-old's, hers was you never have to wash your hands potion.
Oh, yes.
And so then the reversal would be you have to eat a bar of soap.
That's really
So it was just really cute and it was really fun and it took at least an hour of school that day for them to do it. And I just said, go at it, have fun. And then I just walked around and helped where they needed help and they loved it. So that was really fun. Yeah.
All right. So my scoop, I thought it would be fun to share that we spent some time planning our Coop group.
Yes. That's always fun.
Yeah, and it's such a huge part of my homeschool life. I mean, ours, yes, but this is my scoop, and but it's a big part because I have an 8-year-old whose only sibling is 2. So for her, our Coop group is such a huge aspect to our social time,
right.
To our social time. So planning our Coop group was really exciting to make sure that we have, we're doing our book club this year and, our meetups and all of that stuff. So getting that on the calendar and planning it with you and then seeing our girlfriends.
Yeah, on a Zoom.
We did a Zoom. Yeah, we did a Zoom. But still, even just seeing them on Zoom was so fun because it's been a while.
And they were totally on board with everything too.
Yeah.
So that was really fun. I was trying to sell the book club and I didn't need to. They were all like, we're in.
Done. Yeah. You had me at book.
Yeah.
So that was really fun. So planning the Coop group was just really fun for me. And then getting my planner out and writing everything in there was just really exciting because it's one thing for all that stuff to be in our heads, and then it's another to have it out there, agreed upon, and then making real legitimate plans that are going to happen.
Yeah, and people were volunteering left and right to take the months we hadn't planned. So that was really great too.
Right. It was awesome. So that's my scoop.
Yeah, I really like your planner, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
So hopefully it'll be a downloadable soon.
Yes.
Yes.
I have a little plan for that.
All right, let's get to our books.
Okay.
I'll go first with one of my kids' favorite, but also mine. So this is called The Day the Crayons Quit. Oh, I have to preface, I say crayons. I do not say crayon.
Yes, it's like you aren't from Southern California.
I know. My husband, it's so funny. He was like, wait, do you mean crayon?
I did that to you.
Oh,
I
did that too?
Yeah. I was like, what? I looked up Kranz looking for crayons. Because I didn't know what you were saying.
You were. That's hilarious.
And then I was like, oh, crayons. Everything is different. Yeah.
I wonder where these
lots of people say it. I mean, you can take
so
a
funny.
quiz on Facebook about where you're from based on how you pronounce crayons or crayons.
So there's my caveat. I'm going to say crayons for the time being, okay? So The Day the Crayons Quit by Drew Daywalt, and the pictures are by Oliver Jeffers.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually have researched both of those authors to make sure I get as many of their books as possible.
That's awesome.
But it's super cute because the crayons come alive. And so they're writing letters to the kid who owns them. And I'm just going to read you a little sample.
Yeah.
From Green Crayon. Dear Duncan, as Green Crayon, I am writing for 2 reasons. One is to say that I like my workloads of crocodiles, trees, dinosaurs, and frogs. I have no problems. And wish to congratulate you on a very successful coloring things green career so far. The second reason I write is for my friends, Yellow Crayon and Orange Crayon, who are no longer speaking to each other. Both crayons feel they should be the color of the sun. Please settle this soon because they're driving the rest of us crazy. Your happy friend, Green Crayon.
That's so funny.
Yeah, and it actually looks like a letter that it wrote and shows the pictures that it colors. And so this is The Day the Crayons Quit, and then there's The Day the Crayons Came Home, and they all wrote postcards to Duncan. So this is all letters. The other ones are, and like the maroon crayon is marooned on the couch. Right. And there's a picture of him going, no, as like dad goes to sit on him on the couch.
Awesome.
So it's super fun. And then this Christmas, our Coop group is going to do the Crayons Christmas.
Yeah.
And so I haven't read it. I haven't let my kids read it, but I have it ready to go because we love this. And I remember hearing on Read Aloud Revival podcast, she said, a picture book is only worth your time if you enjoy it too.
Right.
Because they should be written in a way that both children and adults can enjoy it.
Yes.
And so my husband puts on different voices for the different crayons and everything. It's really cute. So I just totally recommend these books, and it teaches letter writing. I didn't even think about that till I was talking to a traditional school teacher, and she was like, I'm going to use this to teach letter writing. And I was like, oh, great idea.
Yeah. Right.
And then,
writing it down for later.
Yeah. And then just inanimate objects coming alive. And,
totally.
And even just point of view. Like it teaches all of that without you even knowing or trying.
Right. They're just having fun.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a favorite book in our house.
That's
and
awesome.
And also the sequel as well.
Awesome. So I'm going to go with a fun one of ours from our house that has kind of a fun backstory. This one is, What Does the Fox Say? So
What does the fox say?
Some of you might already know, and some of you may not. So the backstory for this is, my daughter and I found it at the library when she was 4 years old. And so I thought it was hilarious because I remembered the song. I remembered the video from 10 years ago, 8 years ago. I don't even know, but a long time ago. And so I showed her the song, and she thought it was super funny. And it was not an intentional setup, but she asked her daddy to read it later. And he had no idea that this was the same book as the song. So he's reading it to her. And, it's dog goes woof, cat goes meow, bird goes tweet, and mouse goes squeak. He's not singing it.
Right.
He's just reading it. And then you get to the part that has all the crazy sounds. Ring, ding, ding, a ding-a-ring-a-ding. So he's reading it just like this. And he gets to wah, pa, 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 pow. And he looks up and he says, what is happening? And I said, I don't know. I'm like tears streaming down my face laughing,
That's so funny.
wishing that I was recording it so I could earn my $1 million or
Oh yeah, it'll go viral.
$10,000 on America's Funniest Home Videos. So he gets to maybe 3/4 of the way and he's done. He is not having fun with this at fra-ca-ca-ca-ca-ca-cow, right? You get to the
you
point.
did that well.
I've sung this a few times. And so, anyway, he was not amused until I reminded him of the song and we played it and he was cracking up. It was just this funny moment. So this book has always been funny, and that was the library book. We returned it, never thought about it again until I had my son. And then I was on a search for new books for him, and I thought, you know what? We're getting this book. It's special to my daughter and I because of that moment we shared together.
Sweet.
And then it turns out, do you remember this? This song
I know
was
all about
one of
that.
the only songs that would calm him down in the car. He'd be screaming, and I would turn on the song, and it would get quiet in the back, and he would just be peaceful.
I think we drove all the way to William, at least an hour to a hiking spot.
Yeah.
And that was just played on loop to keep him calm. And he wasn't even
fell
like
asleep.
1 year old.
No, he was really little.
That was his song.
Yeah. So this one just has a special place in my heart, but the art is fun. I mean, it's almost creepy, and now he'll even say, "Creepy fox."
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's creepy.
I want to hear him say
Yeah,
that.
it's really cute. But the art is fun and it's interesting. And then if you know the song, or you want to show your kids the song, it's just really fun to have that go side by side.
It's almost reminiscent of is it Picasso who does the geometric, the lady that's like geometric and her eye is like down here.
I don't know my artists very well.
It looks very like that art. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's my fun one.
Well, I think too what we're showing here is that picture books can create such wonderful memories between family members and between friends, depending on who's experiencing the book together.
Yeah.
And that is the gift. And that's why for this year, having heard from you and a couple others on our Coop group, we did a little Zoom meeting a couple months ago and asked them, what brings magic to your homeschool?
Yes.
Because if it brings magic to your homeschool, it might bring magic to mine. And so I might as well try it and see. So with my FOMO and everything, I have to know what everybody's doing.
Right. I'll buy it right now.
Yeah. So, but I think out of 6 or 7 of us, 3 of you said books.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, okay, I need to be more intentional about it instead of just having it on this huge bookshelf that they never take anything off of themselves. I need to start just pulling them off for, and making a decision. And
And we talked about that because my setup, it's not much different than having it on a bookshelf, but I've worked really hard to make sure that it's literally down on the floor in the space that they're in all the time, so in my different houses, it's been in different places. And then I rotate books out now for my little guy because now my 2 kids need very different books.
Right.
And it's still good for her to go through some of these picture books or to have them available to read to her little brother. But just the availability of books in a room that you're in a lot and not just a work type of room or just, well,
like mine is being blocked by a swivel chair.
Right.
So
it's not accessible. They don't hang out in that swivel chair.
Right. Yeah. So that I wanted to be more intentional this year. Right. So I'm trying to do on a day that we might do the dailies, I have the 5 books for the week and then ask them which one do you want to do.
Yeah.
And then I've put an activity with each one.
Yeah.
To really like get the most out of that book that I can. So when we did home yesterday, we read it. We talked about what does it mean to make a home. We talked about what to look for in a future spouse and what kind of home they make, and is it going to be stressful or peaceful, or what do you that kind of thing. And then I said, why don't you create your own home, whether watercolor or Legos or whatever. Right. And 2 out of 3 of them said, okay, yeah, that sounded like a good thing to them. The third one didn't do it, and that's fine. But it's fun, even like the activities you can get from it too.
Definitely.
So, okay, so let's move on to the next book. It is called Where's the Ballerina? Find the Ballerina Hidden in the Ballets.
Oh, fun. Yeah.
Illustrated by Abigail Gu and written by Anna Claiborne. So I think this is not an Usborne book. Why did I think this was an Usborne book this whole time? But it's not. It's not an Usborne book. But doesn't it look like one?
A little bit, yeah.
So what's in this is basically they have the ballets: Swan Lake, Romeo and Juliet, Giselle, the Nutcracker,
La Bayadere, Coppelia.
Thank you for saying those because I would not know how to pronounce those. The Midsummer Night's Dream, Sleeping Beauty, Don Quixote, and Cinderella. And so basically it goes through the general storyline, and then I'm showing it on our video version of this podcast, and then it shows a beautiful scene.
Yeah.
And then you can look for, it's kind of like a Where's Waldo.
Exactly, it's fun.
And then there's always a peacock in every single picture.
Oh, so just like Where's Waldo, there's the little...
the normals. There's always a peacock. And what's funny is too, they're all doing different interesting, there's interesting scenes of what's happening.
Yeah, and if you've read the story, you'll catch different characters throughout or different parts of the story in here.
Yeah, and so what I love is it exposes them to a very classic story and ballet, especially because they both took ballet. But then also just like, I want my kids to be well-rounded in the arts and other things as well. But so it just familiarizes them with these wonderful stories. And if I saw that they're more interested in it, then I know to go circle back and later maybe do an abridged version of Romeo and Juliet or something, you know. So yeah, it's just a really neat book. And what I love about it is both my girls, age 8 and age 5, have loved this book for years.
That's awesome.
And I actually had to have my 8-year-old go get this out of the car today to do this.
Because it recently was just
it's always being used. And so that's what I love about it too. And my 5-year-old, ever since she was probably like 2 or 3, would cuddle up with me. And still to this day, we look for the peacock. She wants to go through all that, even though it's a very immediate because she knows where they are now on every page. But it's just fun to talk about the colors and what's the scenery and stuff. So
awesome.
Where's the Ballerina?
So I'll go on that theme because I also have a ballet book, and it's called Swan. And it's the story of Anna Pavlova. And so she's a very famous ballerina, like one of the original ballerinas, you know, in the modern era, you know. So it's actually a really beautiful story of her growing up in Russia.
That's so
and
cool.
The art in here is just beautiful. And the storytelling, it's simple, but it's also really impactful. You know, Hush, you know, and it talks about it's all beginning. They take a ride to the ballet. I just love the dark colors. It's moody without being like
depressing.
Yes, exactly. But I love those colors, and so I know that this book has spoken to me personally. And then, of course, as a dance teacher, I've read this to my students every year.
Oh, cool.
You know,
What age do you do it to all of them, or?
This one I start with the 5-year-olds.
Okay.
Because it's still written to a very young audience.
Oh yeah.
But I love teaching them about professionals. So then there's other books about different professional ballerinas too. Firebird, Misty Copeland's another great one for a modern day ballerina. But I just love this one because I love talking about the history of it and sharing her story because she was the original dying swan. So this is one of her.
I love that. I wish I could do that kind of art.
Yeah. Oh,
that's a potion I would take.
Yes. So
that would be my freckle juice.
It's not from Swan Lake. It's Dying Swan from the Carnival of the Animals.
Yeah.
The Camille Saint-Saëns song, and it's just beautiful. So the song itself is extremely moving. So then I would teach them that song. And so for me, this goes with the whole thing. And she was asked to be put into her tutu on her deathbed. I probably can't see that very well, but literally on her deathbed, she died in her tutu.
It looks like feathers.
Because it was her swan tutu.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Yep. So that was a very favorite book for me, probably even more so than my daughter. But I do hope that it was impactful for her.
Right.
And it's a book that she'll remember because it's just fun to have that connection to an art form that we both love right now.
Oh, definitely. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go on to another book.
Okay.
This one is called God Made All of Me, a book to help children protect their bodies. So right now there's a lot of curriculum going out there for sex education and just educating children about their body. And what I love about this is this does a lot in just a simple little picture book.
Sure.
And
it's a great way to start the conversation with a younger audience and not be nervous about it as the parent.
Right. And I think I read it to my kids about, 3 or 4 years ago. And then it's ready for another read, but I think it actually would behoove me to read it every year because it's just a very simple way. It says, all of you is good. God made all of you. It's good. And it uses the real words for things, and it talks about the difference between public and private parts of you.
Okay.
It talks about your ability to say no to adults, and it does it in ways that are not shaming and not stressful to the child. It just seems like a normal conversation you would have, because it also talks about giving high fives. It talks about if grandma wants a hug and you don't want a hug, you can say no.
Right.
But it talks about how God made all things. He made your hair, he made your eyes, he made your arms and your nose, and it says which people would probably be safe, like your mommy and daddy, and why a doctor may have different access to you than anybody else, basically.
Right.
You know, but it says, you know, God made every part of your body, and every part of your body is good, and some parts of your body are not for sharing. And so it's just a very simple and easy way with really simple art, nothing at all that is obscene, nothing that you couldn't show any age of child.
Right.
And you are in charge of your body. You can say stop, all done, and no more. And so it's just a very simple way without making them sometimes you almost feel violated when people talk to you about stuff like that, right?
Right.
Just the mere discussion, but this is a very benign way to do it.
Sure.
So I just think this is a really great book to have in your library for when that question comes up.
Yep.
Or if you're going to send them off for the first time. I was sending my kids off to VBS for the first time. It was going to be the first time that I was not going to be in attendance at something that they were at. So I read this book to them, and it pretty much covered what they needed to know.
Yes.
And I think just gave them the power, and it was just no big deal.
Right.
So it's just a really great, simple book, easy to read. And then it has 9 ways in the very back, 9 ways to protect your children from sexual abuse.
Yes.
And so as long as you believe in a God, this book can work for you.
Right.
So I just highly recommend it to people who can't easily get into that discussion or have a hard time with that discussion. It just is, So there you go.
Awesome.
God Made All of Me, a book to help children protect their bodies. It looks like it's by Justin Holcomb and Lindsay Holcomb, and illustrated by Trish Mahoney.
Very nice.
Yeah, so that was kind of a heavy book.
But so good.
Yeah.
So this is one of my favorites. This is Me, Jane by Patrick McDonnell. And Patrick McDonnell, if you don't know, is the author and illustrator of the Mutts comic series.
Well, I'm not good about comic series, so I have no idea.
I'm not an avid comic reader, but I found Mutts back junior high or high school.
Oh, cool.
And that's back when people actually had daily newspaper subscriptions. And so I would always go through my dad's newspaper and read the comics. And
so cute.
Yeah, it was a daily comic. I don't know if it still is, but you can follow Patrick McDonnell on Instagram and see all of his cute Mutts things. And it just spoke to my animal heart back then, my animal lover heart, because Mutts is about a dog and a cat that are friends.
Oh, cute.
Mm-hmm.
I love interspecies friendships.
Yeah. Mooch and Earl, and they're very funny. And so anyway, the illustration is really fun for me because I can see Patrick McDonnell in here.
Oh, cute.
And I see Mutts in his illustration. So this is about Jane Goodall. And so this book is just beautifully illustrated. And then the story of her life, starting with her childhood, is just beautifully told. It's a Caldecott honor book. So it's definitely well recognized as being a great book. It shows all of these different pictures, the Alligator Society. It really starts to show some detail about animals, but in a way that you can skip over if you don't want to read it.
I think those are that's her writing and her pictures that she made, right?
I believe it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what's really fun in here too, is just being able to see her passion come alive from the time she was a child. So it's really relatable to children. And I know my daughter loved it because she still currently will tell you she wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up. And so she has always felt a strong attachment to people who love animals. So one day, curious Jane wondered where eggs came from. So she and Jubilee snuck into Grandma Nut's chicken coop. So it just has, you know, the pretty illustrations, and it just talks about her journey and how her dream grew and grew until she decided she would venture off into Africa and other countries and explore. Jane dreamed of a life in Africa. And then, you know, all of the hard work that had to come along with it.
Can you show that picture?
Yeah.
So not to interrupt, but I borrowed this book from Jessica when we were doing Who is Jane Goodall.
Right.
And that picture, a life living with and helping all animals, with Jane swinging from the vines, just like the monkey is, or the gorilla, or whoever it is. It wouldn't be a gorilla. I guess it would be a monkey or whatever. But she recreated that watercolor.
Your 8-year-old?
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was, I mean, she even, I think, has the curly, and it was just really cute. She has the elephant, and she really connected to that book. So what was really great for me is when we were reading Who's Jane Goodall, then we followed up with that. It talked even more about, even though it's just a few words on a page, about how she sat in the chicken coop for like an entire day.
Right.
Watching.
Observing.
Yeah.
Studying.
But then to see the picture of it. Whereas you don't get that in a chapter book as much.
Right. In an informational biography. Yeah.
So the child really comes alive in this.
And then at the end, it definitely provides real pictures, real images of her and her work with the chimpanzees, I believe, at first. And then it talks about her story. And then a message from Jane. So there's a message from her in the back. And then it also provides you with resources for where to go to find out more information about her. And then notes about the different art. So you can see, this is, I'll show it in just a moment. It's a cartoon that Jane Goodall made of her life in the forest. And there's the puzzles that Jane herself created when, as a young girl, she led a club called the Alligator Society. So that page we were on, yes, she did make that. So it's just really neat. All of the, let's see if I can get a good shot. It's hard to angle it just right.
I don't think you're going to get it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But it's just really neat. So we'll have all of these books linked on our website. So you can go to our podcast page on our website and we'll have a full list of all of these books for you as well. But I highly recommend this one. It was recommended to me. It was lent to me by a friend, and we ended up buying our own copy as well. So definitely highly recommend.
And you could always just do a mini unit study and do that, and then watch the documentary and then study the animals. The documentary is really good. The kids were really enraptured by that. And it was her own film and her husband's filming of her, you know, back in the 70s or whenever that was. So, and it was rare. They would never allow someone to do this now because that would be disturbing the wild.
Right.
But that was the only time they were letting in. And she was like, I think, the first of her, you know, her gender and all that stuff. So, yeah. Not to piggyback on your book.
It's okay. It's a good book.
It is a good book. Okay, the next one is My Friend Is Sad. It's Elephant and Piggy book. And actually, I grabbed this one, but we have about 20 of Mo Willems' books. I love his art. It's very simple. And it's easy for kids to trace if you want to have them trace something. My kids actually had a lot of his books memorized. And while to me that is not reading, it was just fun for them to be able to flip through a book and say, yeehaw, because it's very simple. And they're just sweet stories. Some I prefer more than others. This one, My Friend Is Sad, is really sweet because it's about Elephant is sad because Piggy's not there to experience life with him, but it was and not see the cowboy and the clown, but it was Piggy dressing up as the clown and the cowboy. But elephant doesn't know that. So Piggy keeps trying to make him happy, and all he wants is Piggy next to his side, and he doesn't realize it's actually Piggy. So it's just really sweet and an innocent, simple book that all my kids have liked Elephant and Piggy books since like the last 5 years.
That's awesome.
They've been really, or 4 years, they've been really into them. And whenever they find a new one they haven't read, they're just ecstatic. Yeah. So that's
super cute.
Elephant and Piggy.
Okay. This one is The Night Gardener. So this one I chose because it's another really beautiful book. The art in here is really amazing. It's by the Fan brothers. So they work together to write and illustrate this.
I love that.
Yeah, so the illustrations are beautiful. And can you tell I have a theme going on of the books I find beautiful? It's kind of that dark
I love it.
imagery. You know, I love that moodiness. There's definitely something about it.
It's more mature.
Right. I think so. And so it's easier to keep expecting or hoping that your older children still relate to it, because now they're going to see different things. You know, it's going to speak to them differently because of the artwork. So I really love this one. And so it's this little boy who's always looking outside, and they notice an owl cut into a tree. And then that starts to lead their imaginations. He spends the whole day staring out at it. And so it's about this gardener who at night goes out and does different things. He creates the cat.
That's so cool.
And so it's just fun to see this little boy who lives in wonder about what's going to happen next.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's, you know, it's just a sweet book with some beautiful creative stuff, you know. So again, for kids who love animals, it's kind of fun for them.
Yeah.
You know, it's silly and it's fun to think about what can happen while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
There's that magic involved in going to sleep and being so excited to see what's there when you wake up. So it's just kind of a whimsical, fun thing. And then at the end, he's given a gift of shears.
Oh, he can make his own. Well, wait, what a way to spoil the book for the rest of us.
Sorry, but there's still several more pages.
I'm just kidding.
But it's just a really sweet.
It's so
book.
pretty.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of Charlotte's Web. You know, they'd wake up and it was like,
right, a new message.
Splendid, or whatever the adjective was.
Yep.
So
Some pig.
Some pig, yeah.
Sorry. Gotcha.
Oh my goodness. Okay. My last book of the 5, it was actually fun to pick, you know, but my last book of the 5 is A Year Full of Stories, 52 folk tales and legends from around the world. And written by Angela McAllister, illustrated by Christopher Core. And so I've talked about this before. We spent 2 years doing the subscription box, Universal Yums. And so a lot of people get the subscription box and that's enough for them. They do the pamphlet, they read the stories and the history behind the food, they might rate the food. But I dive in a whole nother couple 3 hours, you know, extra 3 hours. So I got this year full of stories, not because I felt like I needed to read them a story every week as it's set up. So they have January set up, New Year's Day.
Okay.
It's Father Frost, a Russian story. Then it's wintertime, The Magic Porridge Pot, a German story. And then Chinese New Year, King of the Forest, a Chinese story. And then it goes on to February, and that's more love focused. March, it's like St. Patrick's Day focused. And they're Inuit stories, Jewish stories, Japanese stories, Arabic stories, Brazilian, Buddhist, all different kinds. But what I did was, instead of going by month, if we were studying, let's say, Russia, I'd say, okay, do you guys want to hear Father Frost, or do you want to hear The Little Red Hen?
Right.
And what's super interesting about these stories is you can see the political leaning of the country.
Funny.
Like Russia is really into workers, right? So they had another one here. Oh, if only I could find the name of it. But they had another one here where it was these farmers, and it was about who could work the hardest would get like their father's approval.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and these are the folk tales and legends. And there was actually one in here from Africa that we hear on Story of the World.
Oh yeah,
the giant spider. Yeah. So that was in here too.
Story.
Yeah, there's a myth in here. There's some Greek mythology in here. But I'm just going to show some of the beautiful artwork. I love, like, this is The Basket of Eggs, a Canadian story But it's just beautiful artwork. The stories are all like 1 to 3 pages, and it's just stories that kids connect to. Like this is a Mayan story, and then Australian story, and it's just really pretty, full of colors. And it was just a great way to enhance our around the world study,
right, in a fun
way.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just history and food. It was now
right.
a folk tale, history, symbolism of the flag, and food. So
that's awesome.
But it would be fun to go through it, I bet, another time when we're not doing that kind of study.
And go through it
by month. The way the book is
laid out.
Like November is all about Thanksgiving and Bonfire Night, National Tree Week.
Oh, cute.
And St. Andrew's Day. And then December has Christmas, Kwanzaa, Midwinter, and Human Rights Day. So it just has a really great, is it called an anthology? Collection? A collection of folk tales and legends from around the world.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Okay. My last one is actually one that has become super special to our family. And it's not one that I have found many people are familiar with. Yeah, and I didn't know about it as a kid either. So even though sometimes I'm like, you don't know it? I didn't either. My husband is definitely responsible for introducing us to Graham Base, who also wrote Animalia.
I don't know that one either.
So it goes through all the different animals.
Oh,
many different animals.
Oh, that really pretty one?
Yeah. And so we have the actual book, which I didn't bring, but it's similar art. It's very vivid colors, and we also have a coloring book version of Animalia. Yeah. So it's really fun. But this same author, he writes The 11th Hour, and in it, it's a big party for Horace's birthday. So it's really cute. My daughter went through a phase of wanting to write her name on every page of, or not every page, but of every book on the front. And so it's an invitation.
Oh, that's so cute.
Dear Sophia, please come to my costume party and help celebrate my 11th birthday on 11th November at my place. And so,
that's so cute.
The book is called The 11th Hour.
What is it about 11th birthdays? Harry Potter and
it's very special. It's beyond 10. Like 10
That's
is
true.
the double digits, but now you've got, it's just different.
Yeah.
So Horace the elephant, he's an elephant, of course. He throws together this beautiful, elaborate party. Has all of these things. At every hour, they're doing different things. And it's so fun because all of the different animal characters are really characters. You know, it's a costume party, so they also come in costumes, but that's why they're so funny. You've got the zebra who's a punk.
Cute.
You know? So
there's a lot to look at.
There's a lot to look at. So this is one that is really fun to read often. And so...
Oh, I love that.
Yes, and I'm going to come back to some of this. So they have this party, and then as the party goes on, the feast is eaten before they get there. So
don't tell me who does it.
I can't, because that's the magic of this book. So rereading it, you get a whole different perspective when you go back and read it again.
Yeah.
But they get time for the feast, and it's not there. And the book ends.
Spoiler alert.
The book, well, this is not a spoiler, but the book ends without you knowing who does it.
Oh.
So you get to the back and find out that there's a bunch of clues, so you need to decode this.
Oh, and you go back.
And then it has all of these pages here that are actually stuck together. So we've decoded and we uncovered this to see if we were right. So I'm not showing these pages, but
I love those interactive books. That's so cool.
So then notes for detectives, and it talks about what to look for. And then, so now that you know kind of the font of what the secret code looks like, you can go back and you can actually, I mean, I don't know if we can pick this up, but there's symbols up here.
And then in that archway right over there.
Yep. And so there's a lot to look at and to see if you can make codes out of. And so my daughter had a lot of fun. She sat down with her aunt. So obviously my husband gets a ton of the credit for this book because he introduced it. He's been reading it to her since she was 3.
Well, I love that with all the whole time he's reading it, there's a feast for the eyes.
Right.
There's stuff to look at. They're not going to get bored and like wait for you to turn the page.
Exactly.
You know?
And so then once she realized she got to an age where clues meant something to her, then we'd read it and she'd say, Dad, do you think that's a clue? You know, and she'd point to something that she saw, and he'd say, I don't know. Do you think it's a clue?
Like you're
what
a
do
spy.
you think? Right. And so that was just super fun for her to see if she was able to decode things. Yep.
That's so cute. They're playing snakes and ladders.
Uh-huh. Yep. So this one ended up really fun because if you start it reading to your kids at a young age, they're not going to be able to solve it. So it builds and it builds and it builds, and it's one you're going to keep going back to.
That's cool.
Until they're ready to solve it.
Yeah.
So, you know, of course, by maybe 5 or 6 years old, she was like, can we just open it? I went, no.
Yeah. Okay.
You have to at least try to decode it. You know, we want you to have that so we can do it with you. We can sit there and try and figure things out together. Or, you know, you just have to keep waiting until you do it by yourself. So it was really fun. She had a blast decoding. And so then that started this whole new interest in spies and secret messages.
Yeah, well,
and,
I was just thinking of a friend of ours who's really into spies. Yeah.
Well, I think our girls were writing secret messages in their own language too.
Oh, they
Don't
were.
They have a
but they
language?
said it, when I heard them making it, I was like, wow, that's a lot to remember. Like, well, you could just assign one number, like in order of alphabet.
No.
They're like, no, then you would know what we're saying. I'm like, trust me, I'm not paying attention. Like,
Yeah, you can have your language.
But then I was like, how come you guys never talk in your single language? They're like, it's too hard. This would make such a great birthday gift for somebody,
totally.
or Christmas gift.
Yeah.
Like, because it's not a single read, and it's a multi-read, and it's an activity, and it's a discovery. It's a treasure hunt.
Yeah.
So that looks really fun.
Yep, it's a fun one. So,
all right, so there's 5 books from each of us, so a total of 10 books that we think are wonderful books for our family. And I think it's time to go on to our joys.
sounds good.
All right, I'll go first. So I was telling my kids, I don't know how the topic came up, but in the car we do a lot of deep discussions. If I'm not Marco Poloing or listening to a podcast, but we talk a lot about deeper stuff. And I was telling them about how when I was in 6th grade, I switched from a private traditional school to a public traditional school.
Right.
And in that switch, I was introduced to all the mature stuff that you don't expect a sixth grader to know. Oh, they're all talking about it. They all knew about it. And I had never been exposed to it at all.
Right.
So then I was already a weird person for them in that way. And then I got to wear guests and leather skirts and stuff. So I ended up not having a lot of girls who liked me. And one of them was my best friend in my sport. So that was a really weird situation for me.
Right.
So I was telling them how I lost all those friends, and I was alone, and I cried a lot at school. It was just a really hard transition for me. And my 5-year-old says, she goes, "Were you lonely?" And I said, "I was lonely."
Yeah.
And she goes, "But God was with you that whole time." My little 5-year-old.
Of course she would say that. Yeah.
I was just like, oh my goodness, you are so right. Thank you. I wish I would have thought to talk to him more.
Right.
And then my 8-year-old says, which I was not expecting this, she says, well, what you do is you find someone sitting by themselves and you go ask them if you can be their friend. So they really felt for me in this situation.
They related somehow. Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's what I did. I remember walking across the big field where soccer and jogathons and stuff would happen to this other group of girls and saying, my friends are mean to me. Will you be my friend?
Right.
And they were, of course. But I was just sharing that with them. And it was just brought such joy to me that both girls thought of something that was so comforting and so thoughtful and a good way to solve problems.
Well, so since we're talking about books today, my daughter and I just read Bridge to Terabithia, which you guys just read, and there's some of that in there. And Leslie, she's the new girl in the school and different and stuff. And then she ends up giving advice to this mean, scary older girl who she finds crying in the bathroom one day.
That's right.
And she just basically says, act like you don't know that they know that. You know, act like you don't care that they know these things about you or that they think you're weird. Just act normal and maybe someone will forget about it too. You know, and it was actually just really, it just it spoke to me. So I wonder if especially your 5-year-old,
they
just
probably really connected to that story. To me, that was such a wonderful story, and my kids were very impacted by that story. So
yeah, and we just finished
that makes such sense. Yeah.
The timing is good on that
Yeah.
one. Yeah. Okay, so my joy is kind of funny. We had a new school year kickoff celebration at your house. And, obviously it was full of joy with the celebrations and the kids, but I have kind of a funny story that ended up bringing me a lot of joy. Towards the end of the night,
I have no idea what you're going to say, so I can't say.
I don't even know if the kids had their s'mores yet, but we're setting up stuff, and you and your husband are sitting in your Adirondack chairs, and I am standing up, and I feel a bug. I was hoping for that reaction. I feel a bug go into my hair, and I freeze. I'm like down. But I don't know what it is, because all night or all evening there
wasps.
had been, yellow jackets and other kinds of bees too.
For these predatory bugs eating our meat.
We were watching those yellow jackets take chunks of the lunch meat.
Disgusting.
Yeah. So anyway, that's obviously what's in my head, in my mind, even though it's just past sunset, and so they're probably starting to leave now. But anyway, I'm like this, frozen. There's something in my hair.
And she has dark hair, and it's dark out.
There's something in my hair. And so your husband is closest to me. So you kind of stay in your seat this is my version of this.
I want to hear it.
And then, so your husband, I think he thinks that I'm being silly, or that it must have gone away and I'm overreacting. So it kind of like brushes my head with the bag of marshmallows. Okay. I don't think it's gone, then I'm asking, is it gone? Because I'm not going to smash my head if there's a bee on it, like an actual honey bee. So is it gone? And then you're like, okay, you suck it up so that you can come over, and you're like this, and you feel it. You don't see it.
I touch it. Yeah.
There's definitely something in her hair, and then you're like, yeah. So I'm trying not to do that kind of reaction. I'm trying to just play it cool, like I'm not freaking out. So then we finally get my husband's attention. Can you please help me out? There's something in my hair.
See, I'm good at pointing when something's happening.
Right here. Yeah. Come help us. So, yes, there was definitely something in my hair. And at that point, your husband, between the marshmallows, swiping my hair around, me doing this, he's like,
and then I'm like, it's still in there. Right. It's still in there.
So he's like, I don't know, maybe just shake your head out. I don't know what it was. He thinks it was probably just a beetle, like a June bug or something like that, which is fine with me.
I think it was I think it had a stinger.
It may have. So me freezing.
Which is why I was freaking out so much.
It was definitely the right choice.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was just a really fun moment for me, because I'm pretty sure your husband thought I was a crazy girl about bugs. Whereas I felt like I was being totally cool about it. Like, okay, I'm fine. Just somebody needs to get it out. Because I can't see. So.
Well, when we were camping the other day, I was like, oh, kids, let's come look at this tick. And then it was not there. And I was like, flew away. And there it was in my hair. I'm like,
Yeah. Yep. So, So
I know
that
the
was
feeling.
a joyful moment for me.
That was really
it was just
fun.
hilarious. We were all laughing. No one was hurt.
Yeah, totally.
So it was fun.
I love it.
Yep.
All right. Well, we have so much fun together.
I know.
And so there's your 10 fun books.
Yep. Thanks.